First of all, I'd like to wish all of you good evening. Good to see all of you here. And just a reminder, I think almost all of you have your video cameras on, but please turn your cameras on if you have not. There are a few who don't have your cameras on.
大家晚上好，很高兴在这里跟大家又再次见面了。提醒大家一下，如果您的那个镜头摄像头还没有开的话，请您打开摄像头，谢谢。
And so, as usual, we will begin with the Vajradhara lineage prayer, as well as the chants for mandala offering. So please recite the Vajradhara lineage prayer with great faith and devotion.
就像通常一样呢，我们要用极大的这个前进心和信心呢来读诵金刚总持祈请文。接下来我们还会有一个小的供曼达。
Odoje chanje de lo naro dang marpa mila chuje gambong ba du sum she ja gunjen karma ba che shi chun je ju bar zen nam dang Drita tse sum palen droba so salam chaja che lang anye be nyame drogun tabo kaju la so wa dep so kaju la manam Jipa no nam par ji lo shen lo gom ji kang bar sum ba shin se nor gun la cha shen me ba tan se di de ta che be gom she na Yegur shen ba me bar jin ji lo mu gu gom ji gor sum ba shin me nga der go je pe la ma la jun du so wa de be gom che na Zhimen mogu jie war jin ji lo, ye me gong ji, mu shir sum ba shin, kan shar to be ngo so ma de, ma ju de kar jo be gom she na. Gom jalo dan jalwar jinji lo nam to go chakur sumba shin jiam ma yin jiryang charwala mangaro bar charve gom jena Cordeyer me tobar jinji lo kewa kundo yang dalama dang Rame chugi pala long jing satang lam ji yin de rab Dorje change compagnon toshok Dorje change compagnon toshok Chatse wadan chijing shabbatang Jesu yirang gulshing soai Gewa jungze dagi chi saba 함재다기 chanju chirngo 사지 부주 조심해도담 리라 링신이 대잼바디 산지 싱도 미대 푸아이 조근남다 싱가 제발쇼 삼재 남기 삼바당 로이 체라지다왈 제촌 투몽 태바이 제게 콜로 골도소. In the Dharma expanse palace of all of Akanishta is the essence of all Buddhas of the three times, who shows me directly my mind is Dharmakaya. I prostrate to the glorious exalted Guru. Please bless me and all beings that our minds become the Dharma. Please bless us that the Dharma become the path. Please bless us that the path dispel confusion. Please bless us that confusion arise as wisdom. And so now think to yourselves that we are uh, gathering here to listen to and teach the Dharma in order to bring all sentient beings to the state of Buddhahood, to the state of lasting happiness that will never wane, that will never weaken, that can never be interrupted. And in order to do this, we need to listen to and contemplate the Dharma. So please listen with this motivation of bodhicitta.
首先呢，我们要想到，就是我们大家今天呢聚集在这里学习听法呢，是为了利益所有的有情众生来听法的，将有情众生带到究竟的佛果，究竟的这个喜乐，所以呢，我们现在来听，我们听闻佛法，sorry, I forgot last word. Contemplate Dharma and
So we need to listen to and so think to yourselves that we're listening to and practicing the Dharma in order to bring, in order for that purpose of bringing all sentient beings to Buddhahood. And so please listen with this motivation of bodhicitta.
请大家带着菩提心的来听法。
So what we have been discussing has been the way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva, and we're in our third class, but the second class of actually speaking about the actual topic. And so last week we went through the first 5 verses, which give the sort of introductory verses of a prostration to the 3 jewels, the dedication to compose and Shantideva's explanation of his reasons for composing the text and why his reasons for and the manner in which he composed the text. In other words, his intentions in writing the text. So those were the first 3 verses.
我们现在讲的这个是济天菩萨的入菩萨行论。这一周呢是我们的第3节课了。我们上周的第2节课呢，主要就是已经进入到了这个课程的主题。我们主要就是讲了呢，首先是礼敬诸佛，然后呢，接下来这个济天菩萨他阐明了他写这篇论著的意图，并表达了实现了他的谦卑基本上就是前3季的话呢，基本上就是济天菩萨阐明了他这个整个写作的意图。
And then we also discussed the 4th and 1st stanzas, the 4th verse talking about the precious human body with the leisures and resources. And this is, of course, not of course, you might not think it, but it actually is one of the most important stanzas in this text, as I said last week. This is the stanza that teaches us about how do we say it? What we really need to what we really need to value, the opportunity that we need to value in order to practice this. We have this precious opportunity. We can't let it go to waste. And if we do, there's just very little chance of us actually making good on this opportunity to rouse bodhicitta.
接下来的第四季呢，主要就是讲这个暇满人生这是一个暇满的人生是多么难得的。这一季呢，是我们整个这个通篇中非常重要的一季，我们呢就是他暇满人生主要讲了这个闲暇和这个十种圆满的条件，这个呢就是我们一定要想到，我们今生的拥有这个暇满的人生是非常难得的，这是一个非常难得的一个机会所以这一季主要阐述了我们应该要怎么样珍惜这一个机会。如果我们不能充分的利用到这一个机会去修法的话，那么就太可惜了。
Okay, and so now we've come to the fifth, the fourth verse, the fifth verse. No, excuse me. On that fourth verse, I gave you some homework, and I want to check. Raise your hands if you did the homework. Raise your hands if you did the homework. Some aren't raising your hands that I can see. Oh, some people are raising your hands on the Zoom. Raise your hand. That's good. A lot of you are raising your hand. This is very important. And this will be continued homework for the duration of the first chapter. It's a sort of homework that the more you do it, the more you appreciate it. You can take your time reciting the stanza 7 times, 21 times, 108 times continually throughout the day. The more you do it, the more it's going to mean to you. So I'd like to encourage you all to keep reciting this stanza for at least the duration of the first chapter, which will be another 2 weeks.
就是我上周给大家了一个作业，就是说第四季的话，要求大家回去来念诵或者背诵这一季现在大家请举下手，如果你不管是以哪种方式7遍、21遍、108遍，如果你做了的话，请把你的手举起来然后呢。我看到刚才已经有很多人举手了，我很高兴那么接下来呢，我们这个作业呢，希望大家一直坚持下去在第一品整个这个过程中，希望大家都要坚持念诵或者背诵这一祭文无论你是以什么方式，17遍、21遍、108遍我非常鼓励大家这样做下去。我们第一品大概还有2周的时间就可以完成了。
So now we have come to what is it? We've come to the fifth stanza, and here we spoke about this briefly, but I would like to just sort of emphasize something here. Now, last week I spoke about how this stanza is speaking about faith, and I didn't explain so clearly what we mean by faith or why this is speaking about faith. I think I mentioned it very briefly. And so you might wonder, why is this a verse about faith?
上周的时间，我简单的讲述了一下这个第5季中关于这个信心的问题，但是没有很深入的展开来讲，所以的话，可能很多人会有问题，有一个疑惑说这一季跟这个信心、跟这个信念到底有什么关系呢？所以我打算今天再稍微讲一下。
So the reason why this stanza is about faith, when it doesn't say the word faith directly, but in the third and fourth lines where it says, thoughts of the merits of the world arise for a rare moment through the Buddha's power. So thoughts of the merits means wishing to achieve Buddhahood, wishing to achieve good things, wishing to achieve liberation, omniscience, and so forth. So when we have a virtuous thought like that, we always also have, together with that, there's also an aspect of faith.
这季中虽然他没有直接的把这个信心写在这个句子中明确的表达出来，但是呢它这里隐含了这个意思，就是在第3句话的时候英文的第3句 thoughts of merits of the world， 在我们中文的是第4句，就是世人占蒙修福益，就是这里所讲的呢，这个 thoughts of merits of the world 就是世人的这个修福意，这个实际上暂时升起了这个修善福的心意，实际上呢，这个就是指到了这个信心的意思因为呢，我们每一次有一个善念，有修善修福的这个心意的时候呢，任何一个善念的后面，它一定是有信心在里面的。一定是希求是得到佛果或者是解脱，这个后面一定要有一个信心在里面。
So here, what's important to realize is that when we have that faith, what we need to remember is what faith actually is. Usually we think of faith when you think of the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and you feel like, wow, that's one type of faith. Then there's the faith of wanting to achieve Buddhahood. There's the faith of having conviction that the Buddha's teachings are true. Those are all different types of faith. But anytime you have faith, there's something really clear, something really pure about your mind. So when we talk about what the actual characteristic of faith is, it's that sort of clarity or that sincerity in your mind.
我们谈到这个信心的时候呢，就是会想信心到底是什么呢？通常情况下我们会想到就是佛法僧三宝，我们对他们有信心，或者是说我们想证得佛果呀，获得解脱呀，就想起来都是蛮大的一个东西。但是呢，实际上信心呢，最基础性的呢，它就是要有一个清净纯净的心就是它最大的一个特点就是有这个纯净真诚纯净的心当你有这种至诚至真的这个心的时候这个诚意的时候呢，你的心就是很纯净的。
So this arises occasionally. We occasionally have virtuous thoughts, but actually, if you think about it, we don't have that many. They're pretty rare. Most of our thoughts are actually kind of neutral or even worse. Even the neutral ones are often slightly afflicted. They're not really virtuous thoughts. And this is because of habituation from beginningless time. So they're very rare. They're very precious. And what this means is that when we have virtuous thoughts, we need to really treasure them. We need to try to cultivate them. We need to notice them and then remind ourselves that these are good and always try to remember virtuous things.
就是这些善念的话，我们的善念通常这个是非常稀少的，我们善行的习气是很微弱的通常我们的念头一般就是中性的，不善不恶，或者还有的时候是有一些恶念的。这个原因主要就是由于无始以来我们的这种习气所造成的。所以当我们有善念升起来的时候呢，大家一定要特别珍惜这个善念的升起，我们要想办法培养这种善念，让这个善念增大。
So that's the fifth verse, and then this leads into the sixth verse, which is where we're the actual beginning of the actual topic for tonight, starting with the sixth verse. It says here, thus virtues are perpetually weak. The powers of misdeeds are terribly dreadful. Beside the wish for perfect enlightenment, what other virtue triumphs over them?
接下来我们就进入到第六个祭文。这个祭文说到以是善行恒微弱，罪恶力大极难堪，舍此圆满菩提心，何有余善能胜彼？
So the virtues, because they happen only rarely, and this is kind of like through the Buddha's power, because that's the way virtues are, they're kind of dependent on a lot of different conditions, and so they're weak. Misdeeds, the wrongs that we do, are strong, and they have terrible results. They're strong because of habituation from beginningless samsara. So we often find ourselves naturally thinking in negative ways, and when we do that, we naturally act in negative ways. So they're hard, they're difficult. So we need something that can purify that. And what can purify it is only one thing, and that is the wish for perfect enlightenment, which is bodhicitta.
就是我们这个由于我们凡夫呢，就是业障都是很深的，这个主要就是由于这个无始的这个轮回以来呢，我们的造成的一种恶习、恶习，所以我们有很多的负向的思维、负向的做法。如果我们想要这个净化这个 这个恶习的话呢，只有这个菩提心才能够压倒这个恶习和恶气。
So the this bodhicitta, or the wish for enlightenment, is what will overcome all of our misdeeds, all of our obscurations. And we will talk more later, a little bit more later this evening, a little bit more later as we go through the course of the entire book about how it actually does it. But to just sort of say it in brief, if you want to overcome all your misdeeds and all of your other obscurations, the best way to do that is to become a Buddha. And in order to become a Buddha, you first have to have bodhicitta.
嗯，就是这个菩提心呢，就是祈求能够证悟成佛但是怎么样做呢？这个在后面我们会展开的讲解。所以这个第6集主要就是说呢，只有菩提心才能够压倒我们所有的这些恶习和恶气。我们如果想要战胜这些恶习，我们这些恶的习惯的话呢，只有成佛。那么也只有菩提心才能够，才能够这个压制我们这些这些不好的习气。
So before we go too much further, we actually have to talk a little bit about, because we're going to be using the word bodhicitta a lot. We need to talk about bodhicitta, what bodhicitta is, before we get too much further in our teaching.
我们接下来如果向下展开讲的时候，首先呢，我们必须要先谈一谈菩提心，这个菩提心到底是怎么样的一回事。
So, but before we do that, I realized there was something I was supposed to talk about at the very beginning of the teaching that I forgot to. So we're going to have a little bit of a short intermission from the actual content to talk about administrative things.
I'm sorry, we're going to talk.
Administrative things, sort of like the mechanics of running our class.
哦，
Like
我看过说，在这之前忘讲了一件事情，就是跟这个课堂相关的一个事情。
So, as I mentioned last week, everyone signed up on time. A few people were a little bit late, and I think most of them were let in, but we want to have everyone sign up on time, and you need to attend properly. Some of you may not have been here. If you haven't, contact either me or Grace or Kimmy to get in. Or to learn more about the rules, and we will post the class rules in the group chat.
这个我们把这个就是课堂的这个纪律呢，把它就是在这个WhatsApp 的这个群组里边已经发上去了，由 Grace 和 Kimmy 发上去了。但是可能有些人加入这个群组有点晚了，看不 when did they post the class rule？
We will post them.
我们将要我们将要我们将要在那个群组里边把这个课堂纪律的这个课堂规范在那个群组里边跟大家分享。
And you should all have them in your group chat now.
现在可能在这个 group chat 里边大家应该能够看到了。
Now, the other thing is, I think there are some people who have joined, and it's very good. I'm very happy to see everyone here. So everyone here, in order to administer this, if possible, please join our WhatsApp group. I know there are a couple of people who, for various private reasons, are unable to join it right now, but we will have a WhatsApp group where we'll be having communications. So please join the WhatsApp group.
我很高兴在这儿见到大家，但是请大家务必一定要加入到这个 WhatsApp 的这个群组里边去，因为在那里边呢，我们会发通告发一些通知还有相关的一些事情。
And so in order to help you sign up, I will send a link to the group chat now.
如果有谁还没有进入到这个群组里边，现在堪布会把这个群组的这个连接发到现在这个我们Zoom 的这些下面里边，你们可以看一下，然后赶紧就是加入到这个群组。
Now, we're also going to have discussion groups. And the reasons for discussion groups are a couple of reasons. The first is so you can answer any questions you have. That's the first one. The second reason is because when you have a chance to review it later in the week, it'll remind you. If we have a class on Monday, you'll remember something on Tuesday, you'll remember a little bit less on Wednesday, and you might have forgotten about it entirely by Thursday. So if we have a discussion group sometime later in the week, you'll have a reminder.
嗯接下来就是还是我们有一个课后的这个学习小组，这课后学习小组是挺重要的。为什么要建立课后学习小组呢？一个是大家可以就是互相回答问题，再一个呢，还有就是可以温习这个已经讲过的课程。可能今天上了课，明天你还记住一点儿，后天还记着就会忘掉一些，接下来会忘掉更多。所以呢，这个学习小组呢也是一个挺好的，能帮助大家来温习学过的知识。
And so Kimmy and Grace have made a list of three different groups by language, one for English, one for English and Cantonese, and one for English and Mandarin. So please make sure your names are on the group. And then one person has been appointed as asked to be a leader for each of the groups. So we will try to help you all make a group, a WhatsApp group for each of your discussion groups. And then please get together amongst yourselves and discuss when a good time for all of you is, because it's going to be a little different for each group. Some of the groups are looking like they might be getting a little bit large. The English and the Mandarin groups might be better to split them into two. But first of all, I think it's best for you all to get together and discuss over WhatsApp to make a group for yourselves, and then discuss when a good time is. And if it's too big a group, then you can discuss about splitting into groups. And then after we've got your time set and everything, then Grace and Kimmy will help you all set up and get organized so that we can actually coordinate this.
So can boys each group are going to split from the
Well, we have the groups that Kimmy posted on the list of names that Kimmy posted on our group chat. So these will be groups, and so everyone should just get together and talk over and discuss over WhatsApp. You should make a WhatsApp group for each discussion group, and
Okay.
then decide when you want to meet.
Okay. Is the leader assigned?
The leader is assigned for each of the groups. I think we've contacted some of them.
OK，就是Kimmy 和 Grace 他们已经就是组织大家就是按照语言的方式，已经分了3个组了，就是中文的、英文的，还有中英混合的这个3个小组。然后大家的名字也都在上面呢。然后每一个组都有一个小组长。然后现在呢，就是大家你们应该这个在一起的话。讨论一下什么时间是个好时间，这一周的哪一天是个好时间，你们来做这个课后的学习。然后呢，你们看看你们想怎么做，然后 Kimmy 和 Grace 会帮助你们来这个协调。你看你们是不是需要再分自己的这个 WhatsApp 的自己的小组，看看怎么做是更合适的。
And so I don't want to spend too much more time on this now. So if you have any further questions, please ask in our group WhatsApp, and we'll settle it out. We'll straighten it all out. It might take a week or two to get everything going, but we're new. We're just starting this. And once we have it all organized, it should be pretty smooth.
就是课上就不多讲这件事情了。如果大家还有什么问题的话呢，我们在那个群组里边再他进行进一步的讨论。然后1、2周之后，当所有这些都已经规划好了之后呢，我们就会很顺利的可以进行了。
And the other thing about the discussions is that to help you with your discussions, to help you keep on track and know what you need to go through, I'm going to be making study guides for each lesson of questions that you can think about. There aren't answers to the questions. You might need to listen to the teaching a second time, but these are sort of the points that I hope to go through. So the study guides are both in English and Chinese, or the first one at least, as I'm hoping to be able to keep doing that with all of them. And so I will send the study guide over the group chat now.
就是为了帮助大家能够更好的这个学习温习，所以呢，我制定了一个这个学习的指南，这个学习指南是有中英文对照的，上面呢有问题，每一个章节我提出了一些问题，然后大家可以根据这个问题来这个温习学过的知识。现在堪普我已经把这个指南分享到了这个WhatsApp 的群组里边了。
So that's enough of the minor business. So we need to get back to the real business, which is talking about bodhicitta.
OK，现在这个题外话讲完了，我们回到正题，这个正文上的学习。
So it's really important for us to understand what is bodhicitta. We need to, what do we say? We need to, if we're going to be having a course on the way of the Bodhisattva, and the way of the Bodhisattva is about rousing bodhicitta, we need to know what bodhicitta is. If you don't identify clearly what bodhicitta is, you might kind of wonder, why is this so important? What are we talking about with bodhicitta?
我们现在必须要，最重要的事情，现在要理解什么叫做菩提心。我们老是说菩萨要升起这个菩提心，那么，到底什么是菩提心呢？
So bodhicitta is actually, it's just like the basic thing that bodhicitta is. It's just like this focus on enlightenment, this focus on perfect enlightenment, this idea of Buddhahood and this thinking about Buddhahood. And it can take a couple of different aspects. For us as beginners, this focus on like Buddhahood is making that your aim, thinking, I want to achieve Buddhahood. And the reason we want to achieve Buddhahood is because we have we develop great compassion for all beings. We want to achieve Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
这个菩提心呢，它主要呢就是，主要它就讲，主旨呢，菩提心的主旨实际上呢就是证得这个证悟证得佛果。但是对于我们初学者来讲呢，我们首先呢，我们应该把这个注意力集中在发愿为利益众生，而证悟成佛。
So the focus on enlightenment, I mean, actually, when we talk about bodhicitta, there are basically two different types of bodhicitta. There is relative bodhicitta and there's ultimate bodhicitta. So we have these two types. Ultimate bodhicitta is a focus on perfect enlightenment in the sense that it's when you are like a great bodhisattva on the bodhisattva levels, or a Buddha is resting in meditation. Then what they are perceiving is Buddhahood. They're perceiving the actual nature of all things, which is the nature of Buddhahood. So that's ultimate bodhicitta.
我们说这个关注在这个证悟上面，就是菩提心呢，这个有两种，这个菩提心，一个就是圣意菩提心。这个圣意菩提心呢，它就是我们从证悟的本质来看呢，就是这个有一个圣意菩提心。这个圣意菩提心本质呢，就是指这个证悟万法空性的这个本质。通常它都是就是说这些登地上的菩萨们，当他们在这个禅定的时候呢，他们证悟了这种空性的本质。
So that's for later stage. When we begin, what we need first is we need to have what's called relative bodhicitta. So relative bodhicitta is, as described by Maitreya in his treatise, The Ornament of Clear Realization. Relative bodhicitta is the wish to achieve perfect enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings.
就是对于我们初学者来说呢，我们要升起的，我们要关注的是这个世俗的菩提心，就像这个弥勒菩萨在圣观庄严论中对这个世俗菩提心的定义为呢，就是说发愿为利益众生而成佛的这个心。
So the wish to achieve for the sake of all sentient beings is kind of a little bit short, but but if you think about what it really means, for the sake of all sentient beings, it's doing it in order to benefit all sentient beings. And what is the only real benefit we can bring to sentient beings? I mean, we can do many things that help sentient beings. You can give them a massage, you can feed them, you can save their lives, you can do all sorts of things, but most of the things we do in the world that help other sentient beings are kind of temporary.
我们说到为利益众生，那这个利益众生呢有好多种，我们可以说我们给众生食物，我们可以说救他们的生命，我们可以给他提供 massage，
Massage, yeah.
给按摩，就是有很多的这种利益众生，但这些利益都是太短暂了，都是这些嗯很短的，对，利益。
So, in order to, if we really want to benefit, all of these benefits are like temporary. Even if you save someone's life, you aren't preventing them from dying. You may save them their life, but they're still going to die at some point in the future. And it might be a year later, it might be 20 years later, but they're still going to die. So no matter, even if we bring someone the greatest benefit in this lifetime, it's not permanent benefit for them.
就是说我们刚才讲的这些所有利益众生呢，都是非常短暂的利益就是即使你救了一个人他现在你拯救了他的生命，但是又能怎样呢？过了此生之后，他还是会死掉的所以说，这些都不是大的这个利益，不是一个长远的利益。
So if we want to do something that's going to really benefit them, it's the best thing for them to benefit them is the same thing as the best benefit for us. We want to reach a state that is free of all suffering, that's free of the suffering of birth, age, sickness, and death, and all of the other suffering of samsara. And if other sentient beings want to be truly happy, they also want to achieve the same sort of state. So really, the only real benefit is to bring them also, to bring that to that state of freedom from samsara and complete happiness. And the only complete state of lasting happiness, enduring happiness, is the state of Buddhahood.
就是我们谈到这种究竟的利益、真实的利益，这是什么样的利益呢？就像我们自己，我们想远离这个轮回之苦，所有轮回的这种之苦然后我们想证得佛果，那么这个其他的众生跟我们的想法是一样的，他们也想达到同样的这种究竟的快乐，证得佛果。所以说，我们这个这个对带给其他众生的真正的利益，应该是这样的利益。
So the wish of bodhicitta is that we want to bring all sentient beings to lasting happiness, happiness that will never wane, that will never decrease, that you'll never lose. And so in order to do that, we need to actually know how to do it ourselves, which means we also first have to achieve Buddhahood. So that is why we're saying that the characteristic of bodhicitta is wishing to achieve perfect Buddhahood in order to be able to help sentient beings. In other words, in order to be able to help all sentient beings, we first have to become Buddhas. Then we can help all sentient beings become Buddhas ourselves. So we have to achieve that capacity ourselves first.
我们很想这个就是我们很我们希求这个菩提心我们希求这样的菩提心呢不会增减不会退转不会变少那么呢我们呢就必须要证得佛果。我们证得佛果的目的呢，就是为了帮助其他的有情众生。反过来说，如果我们想帮助其他的有情众生的话，我们必须要有这种能力。那这个能力是什么呢？就是我们首先要证得佛果。
So that's what we mean by bodhicitta, that strong wish. And so this is born out of great compassion. You have to have great compassion for all sentient beings. And that great compassion for sentient beings comes out of having love for them. So we have to think of all sentient beings with loving kindness and compassion. And then as we cultivate those, then the wish to help all sentient beings becomes stronger and stronger. And that leads to the motivation of bodhicitta. It's kind of a process. Usually when we first think to ourselves that we want to have bodhicitta. We don't have full bodhicitta yet, but it's good. It's a process. So we have to go through the process of first deciding this is something we want to do, and then you kind of have that thought, I really want to do it. You can make the commitment. I want to bring all sentient beings to Buddhahood. So this is what we mean by rousing bodhicitta. It's a process that goes stronger and stronger. And even once you feel like you have that strong commitment, you have to keep rousing and keep meditating on it. So we continually rouse bodhicitta as a way to cultivate it and make it stronger.
这个，菩提心呢，这个首先呢，它是建立在这个悲心的基础之上的，这个也就是说，我们这个要帮助有情众生从这个苦和苦因中解脱出来，它是建立在这个悲心基础之上的，但是菩提心呢，它这个不是我们一下就完全有一个真正的菩提心，我们首先要有这样的愿望，强烈的愿望，我们要发菩提心，然后我们不断的在这个过程中，在修的过程中，我们不断的升起菩提心，不断的升起菩提心，然后让自己的这个菩提心，这个菩提心呢越来越坚固，越来越越来越坚定。
So the other thing we need to do that is we need to be kind of inspired. We have to think about why is it so good to achieve bodhicitta or to develop bodhicitta? What is the benefit? And generally, because we're ordinary people, even though it's not entirely a selfless thing, but we have to, we're ordinary people. So we want to know what is the benefit for me? How is this going to benefit me if I rouse bodhicitta? So this is what the rest of the chapter talks about. It talks about the benefits of bodhicitta. And the reason why it discusses the benefits of bodhicitta is so that in order to inspire us to actually want to rouse it.
我们作为普通人来修的话呢，普通人来讲呢，这个菩提心的话呢，我们想知道这个菩提心对我们有什么样的这个利益，然后呢，怎么样才能够激励我不断的这个发菩提心？这是这一个章节，就是基本上来讲的，就是让大家升起这个菩提心，通过讲述这个菩提心的利益，让没有升起菩提心的人升起菩提心。
So we need to think about what the benefits of bodhicitta are. And oh, hang on, I'm getting my computer all mucked up. I'm trying to see what I want to see. I'd like to share that same verse again. There are different benefits that come from bodhicitta. Some of them are benefits that we can see, and some of them are benefits that we don't see. So when benefits that we don't see, that means the benefits that come in future lifetimes. So some we see in this lifetime, some we see in future lifetimes. So this verse that we were just speaking about talks about a benefit that we will see in a future lifetime. So this is the power of overcoming our misdeeds. In other words, that we won't experience the karmic results of the misdeeds we've accumulated, not just in this life, but also in our previous lifetimes.
就是这个菩提心的利益呢，它有一些是可见的，是此生你可以见到它的这个利益，是马上就能让你看到的。但有另外一些的它菩提心的利益呢，它是不可见的，可能只有在来世你才能够体悟到。所以这个偈子6所讲的呢，这就是一个不可见的菩提心。菩提心的利益，为什么呢？就是说，菩提心它能够压倒，它能够战胜我们这些恶习，但是这些恶习的话呢，它有此生的，也有来生的，它有些，它能战胜你这个恶习，不是你在此生立刻马上就能见到的，有一些可能要到来世才能够见到。
So that's one benefit is that it overcomes the misdeeds. The second benefit is that this is going to be able to help us greatly. It helps ourselves and it helps others, as it says in the 7th verse, which reads, "The lords of sages who have contemplated for many eons see just this will help. Immeasurable multitudes of beings through this will gain the sublime bliss with ease."
看不，
Mhm.
do you mind me to explain the verses 6? 你的
Did oh wait, I'm going back forth. I did
just the translate
oh
your
the
English.
translate. Okay.
嗯，所以第六季的那个，除了这个文上的这个文言文以外呢，就是我把堪布的那个英文翻译一下，就是凡夫的善行通常十分微弱短暂，而我们的恶习恶气势力很强大，难以抵挡。除了圆满的菩提心，还有什么其他的善行能超越这些恶行恶气呢？Thank you, Pam.
Okay. So now I'll go on to the seventh verse. I'm sorry, I keep on forgetting about it's always hard to remember where we are with the translation. Okay. So the seventh verse talks about how we benefit both ourselves and others. So the lords of sages who have contemplated for many aeons see just this will help. Immeasurable multitudes of beings through this will gain the sublime bliss with ease. So the first two lines talk about how it benefits us. The Buddhas, the lords of sages, have seen that it brings benefit. And they've told us in the sutras that it brings benefit, so it'll help us. So that's benefit for ourselves.
接下来的第7个句子呢，它主要就讲了这个菩提心的利益，针对我们自己和他人的利益在哪里边，在哪里？首先，前两句话说：“佛于多劫深思维，见此决心最饶益。”
And so then the second two lines talk about benefiting others. And here there are two things, or a few things to point out. So by rousing bodhicitta, eventually we'll become a Buddha. And once we become Buddhas, we'll help many beings. Um, and it will help, when we help them, we'll help bring them to the highest bliss, which means the state of Buddhahood, and we'll be able to do it with ease. It means that the path of Buddhahood, no matter how arduous it seems, no matter how difficult it seems to us right now, the path of Buddhahood is actually fairly mild compared to other types of paths you could take.
Sorry, the path of Buddhahood is
It's
mild.
mild. It's not as difficult.
Oh. 刚才前两句，刚才我忘记说了，前两句，主要是指这个菩提心对我们个人有哪些这个利益，然后接下来的两句，无量众生依于此顺利能获最胜乐，这个主要讲菩提心怎样饶益他人，这个，就是我们只有成佛了之后，才能够。才能够只有我们都菩提心，让我们都有了菩萨的这个能力，成佛了之后，我们才能带领众生获得最胜乐。所以这个是我们怎么样饶益他人。然后堪布说菩提道是最sorry I'm still compared to other paths the
Compared to other
path
paths, yeah. So other ways of achieving enlightenment.
哦，相对于其他的这个获得证悟的这个解脱的道路的话呢，成佛是一个最便捷的道路。
Like in a lot of other religions, people will undergo a lot of austerities. They'll torture themselves. They'll beat themselves. Some people will take a whip and whip their own backs. This is some Christians do this. I think there might be some Muslims who do this. There are some Hindus who pull out their hair. There are the Jains who walk around naked all the time. And they do this all in order to achieve enlightenment. But on the Buddhist path, you don't have to do any of that. It's comparatively simple. All you have to do is practice virtue and avoid misdeeds and tame your own mind. And you don't need to do all the things that are so difficult, like pulling your hair out or beating yourself.
就是我们看，其他的一些宗教的话，它会有很多苦修行的方式，譬如说基督教啊，或者伊斯兰教啊，它会有那种鞭打自己，然后印度教中会有一些人拔自己的头发，然后耆那教，会有一些人赤身裸体的行走，所以呢，这些是他们用来去证悟的一些方法。 相比于这些方法的话，那我们的修行方法是非常平和、非常方便的。我们就是避免恶行恶业，我们进行修行。我们来我们来那个 mind training
Train your mind,
training mind
tame your mind, tame,
啊，
make it subdue, yeah.
这个修心，修自己的心。
Okay. So that's the verse about benefiting ourselves and benefiting others. And the next verse speaks about how it becomes like a basis for us to be able to bring benefit for ourselves and others. It reads, no one should ever forsake bodhicitta who wants to dispel being's unhappiness, vanquish the hundreds of miseries of existence, and partake in the many hundreds of joys.
第八个句子是说，欲灭三有百般苦，即除有情众不安，欲享百种快乐者，恒常莫舍菩提心。
And so here, I think the order is probably a little different in English than in Chinese. The Sanskrit's in one order, the Tibetan's in another order. It worked in a different order in English. So the order of the lines is a little bit different, but they're basically three things that we want to do. And so to give it in the order that's in the English, the first thing we want to do is we want to bring all beings to lasting happiness. And so if you want to dispel beings' unhappiness and bring them to happiness, then you need bodhicitta. In other words, if you want to bring sentient beings to Buddhahood, if you have the motivation of bodhicitta, you need to have, if you want to bring sentient beings to Buddhahood, you need to have bodhicitta.
嗯，这个就是这个英文和中文的它这个顺序呢，翻译的可能有一点点不太一样总之呢，他讲了这种三种这个就是带领众生获得。他首先讲了一个说，如果呢，你要帮助这个诸有情，就是脱离这个不安的话，带领有情远离这个有情远离苦难的话。
Okay, and so that's the first thing. So if you obviously if you want to enter the path to Buddhahood, you have to have bodhicitta. But also, even if all you want to do is achieve nirvana, that says in the line it says vanquish the hundred miseries of existence. That means achieving nirvana. If you want to achieve nirvana quickly, you should arouse bodhicitta because even if all you want is nirvana for yourself, you will get there quicker if you arouse bodhicitta.
刚才我说错了，第一个是说，如果你要想把众生带到证得佛果的话呢，你必须要升起菩提心，这是第一句。第二句的话呢，是如果你自己想要就是如果灭尽诸苦，然后获得涅槃的话呢，你也要证悟菩提心。
And so then the last one is, and partake in the many hundreds of joys. And so the many hundreds of joys, these are like the pleasures of existence. I mean, we all want to be, for example, everyone prays to Jambala to become rich, right? Or a lot of people do this, or they pray to Medicine Buddha to be healthy. So we want good things in this lifetime, and we want good things in the next lifetimes as well. And the best way, the greatest virtue, the greatest cause of all that is bodhicitta. So if we want to have abundance, good health, and so forth in this and in our future lifetimes, bodhicitta is also the best way to achieve it.
第三个情况说的是说呢，如果你想享受无量的快乐，这种情况下呢，你也需要证得这个修持这个菩提心这个无上的这个快乐、健康啊、幸福啊，这个可以是此生的，也可以是来世的，但这些也需要你来这个修持，莫舍这个菩提心。
Okay, so then we move on to the next verse, which talks about how once you rouse bodhicitta, then you become a bodhisattva. So the verse reads, if they rouse bodhicitta in an instant, the wretched, fettered in samsara's prison, are named the offspring of the sugatas and revered in the worlds of gods and humans.
第9个记呢，就是指这个发菩提心之后呢，你就会立刻转成了菩萨。这个是说到生死欲系苦有情，若生真实菩提心，即可。
So this is talking about the visible benefits, the benefits that we see right now when we arouse bodhicitta. It's saying that, I mean, right now it's like we're in samsara's prison. We need to get out. If you rouse bodhicitta, it's not like you're out, you get out of, it's not like a get out of jail free card. You're not free yet. But what happens is that you become a bodhisattva, a beginner bodhisattva. You're called, you're given the name of being an offspring of the Sugatas. You become a son or daughter of the Buddhas. And then you are revered in the worlds of gods and humans. That means that all the gods and humans who know that you've done this respect you for it.
这个呢，这一季呢是一种可见的这个菩提心的利益，也就是说呢，虽然呢，你并没有完全的从这个业惑烦恼的束缚中解脱出来，但是只要你发了菩提心之后呢，你就是转成了菩萨，也就是说，你即刻呢，就是第3句话，你即刻就成为英文是 offspring of the Sugatas，也就是说你即刻就成为了如来之子，也就是佛子。那么在这种情况下呢，世间的人天呢，就都应该向你礼敬，这是一个
So
可见的利益。
So with the what is kind of like there's an example that's given in some of the commentaries, but that's kind of a little bit hard for you to might not be a little bit remote. It's like imagine you have a friend who then decides they want to go and become a monk or a nun. They go, they shave their heads, they put on the robes, they come back. All of you are going to go, oh, wonderful, and you're going to give them red packets, right? Because they're monks and nuns. It's kind of the same when you become a bodhisattva. It's like, I mean, of course, I mean, you might not know that someone's a bodhisattva because you can be a bodhisattva as a layperson, and it's perfectly fine to be a bodhisattva as a layperson. It's actually great to be a bodhisattva as a layperson. But there's the benefit that people know you've taken the bodhisattva vow, they've seen it, and it's like, and also all the gods who have clairvoyance and can see what's happening in our world, they also respect you for it. So this is one of the benefits of bodhicitta.
就在有一些注释中会有给这样的一个举例，就是说，如果你有一个朋友的话，他现在出家为僧为尼了的话，那么你看到他就是穿上了这个袈裟，剃掉了头发，那么你就很快会给他极大的尊重。那么这也就跟我们说受了这个发了菩提心之后，我们然后我们发了菩提愿，然后我们就这个也成为了菩萨。可能我们别人有些人并不知道你是个菩萨，但是呢，当你发了这个菩提愿之后呢，你就是成为了菩萨。这个天人龙这个他们是会知道的，所以他们都应该礼敬你。
But the other thing is that we become offspring of the Buddhas. It's like we become heirs of the Buddhas. It's a situation where we can now like we're children of the Buddhas. It's like we're the sons and daughters of the Buddha. And what this means is that, now we can receive the inheritance of the Buddha. Now we'll be able to become like the Buddha. So when we first rouse bodhicitta, we're still ordinary beings. You're still a regular person. It's not going to magically extricate you from worldly life, but it's the first step. So you're a beginner bodhisattva. Later on, as you go through the path, you'll get to the point where you can be called a noble bodhisattva. That comes later. But we start out as beginner bodhisattvas, and this is excellent. It's a real benefit to be a beginner bodhisattva. So this is one visible benefit of this. You have the confidence. You're on the path. You can go. You're making progress, and so this is a real benefit of that you can feel in your life.
我们这个发菩提心之后呢，我们就成为佛子，也就是说佛陀的孩子。那么我们肯定会继承佛的一些品质。虽然我们还是普通人凡夫，但是因为我们受了这个，我们发了菩提心的话呢，那我们也可以被称为叫做初发心菩萨。那么接着随我们继续修行，我们真正的成为真正的菩萨。但是现在我们也是可以叫做菩萨的，我们叫做初发心菩萨。
So we will move on to the next stanza, which is talking about the first of the six analogies. So this is a passage that's called the Six Analogies. And when we go through it, you might say, wait a minute, there are only five. Well, there are five, and then there's a list or mention of a list in another sutra where there are many analogies. So it's called the Six Analogies, even though Shantideva only mentions five.
我们接下来进入到第10个句子接下来呢会有一个很经典的叫做6个类比、6个比喻。实际上，当我们进行讲解的时候，你会看到，其实真正只有5个比喻。第6个呢，它并谈不上是一个类比、一个比喻，它实际上是来自于一个经典的一个参考。
So the first of these analogies is about how bodhicitta takes something that's kind of inferior and makes it into something that's great, that's supreme, that's like the greatest of everything. So the verse reads, just like the greatest kind of alchemy, it takes this unclean body and transforms it into a priceless jewel, a Buddha's body. So firmly grasp a hold of bodhicitta.
接下来第10个句子呢，你会看到这个菩提心是怎么把一个就是很普通的，这个把它转化成为一个非常宝贵的东西。就是第10句中是这样说的，犹如最胜冶金料，够深得此将转成无价之宝，佛陀身，故应坚持菩提心。
So alchemy is like where you take iron or some other metal, you mix in the right stuff, and you do it in the right way, and it transforms that iron into gold. This is something that they spoke about in ancient Indian tradition. It's something that they speak about in the Western tradition. We had alchemists who tried to do this in the Middle Ages. And there are even people who try to do it today. I met a monk once who knew of a lama in Burma who turned iron into silver. So there are people who do alchemy. Basically, you're taking something not so worthful, not so valuable, and changing it into something that's very valuable.
这个第一句话说的这个冶金料呢，实际上就在英文中是就是alchemical 这个它指的是一种点金剂这个在这个古代的印度还有在这个即使在西方的有一些过去的古老传统中甚至这个这个我在Burma 缅马忘记这国家的名字了，亚洲国家。我也见过有人用这种东西把铁转化成这个银子。总之呢，它这个点金剂呢，它就是一种这个物质呢，它能够通常是把铁转化成不值钱的铁转化成这个无价之宝的金子。
So if you have bodhicitta, it takes this body, which is made out of flesh and blood and bile and all sorts of gross things. I mean, it looks nice on the outside, but on the inside, it's really pretty disgusting. So your body is filled with all of these disgusting things. So it's unclean. And then bodhicitta transformed that from being an unclean body into being a Buddha's body. And the Buddha's body is like a priceless jewel. The priceless jewel here is like a wish-fulfilling jewel. It's not just any priceless jewel. It's not just like a diamond. It's a wish-fulfilling jewel that if you pray to it, will give everything that is needed to all sentient beings everywhere.
这个菩提心呢，就跟我们刚才说的这个点睛记一样呢，它会把我们这个很不纯净的这个凡夫的身体，我们这个身体，就是有很多很不洁净的东西，各种不净的物质组成的。如果你想想我们身体内部，是很是不能想象的所以呢。 这个菩提心呢，就是把这个凡夫的这种很不净的这个肉身呢，把它能够转化成一个非常纯净清净的佛身。这个清净的佛身呢，就像如意宝一样，它能够满足你所有的愿望。
So bodhicitta is like the alchemy, but bodhicitta is also like the precious jewel. And this is what is discussed in the next stanza, where it reads, examined well by the sole leader of beings with his immeasurable mind, it has great value. So you who wish to leave the places of beings firmly grasp hold of precious bodhicitta.
嗯，就是同时呢，这个菩提心呢，也像是就是一个非常一个珍宝一样，这么样的珍贵。那么我们现在就进入到第十一颂。第十一颂呢，想到说众生导师以慧观彻见彼心极珍贵，诸欲出离三界者，亦善坚持菩提心。
So this verse is actually talking about something that we don't usually talk about so much anymore. In ancient India, uh, what would happen is people would travel from India overseas. They'd go by ships to islands where they could gather treasure. And so there would be captains who'd lead people on the trips, and they'd bring them to the treasure islands. And once they got there, they had to sort through everything on the island in order to find the really valuable jewels and gems. They had to look for the things like the diamonds, the valuable things. They left all the rhinestones and all the cheap fake jewels behind, but they only got the ones that were really valuable. So the captain here, it was really important because the captain knew how to get to the island. And when you got there, the captain knew what jewels you needed to get. And the captain would only bring back the really valuable ones.
嗯，这里边讲呢，就是通常就是有这样的一个典故，就是说在古印度的时候呢，就是这个商人们呢，他们会坐船到一个宝洲上，到那个地方去寻找这个珍宝。通常他们是会在一个这个商队的首领的带领下，前往这个宝洲寻找这些珍宝。这个所以说呢。商队的首领呢，就是特别重要的一个职责，因为呢，只有他能够带大家到宝州上，到了这个有宝物的这个地方呢，他能够从这些大量的这些不知是真是假的这些物品中呢，找到最有价值的珠宝，然后把它带回来，通常就是钻石啊什么这些非常非常好的有价值的这个珍宝。
So here in this verse, where it says in the first line, the sole leader of beings, that means the Buddha. He knows what the greatest jewel is, and that greatest jewel is bodhicitta. So we have to follow the Buddha. And he's saying, you need to take this jewel of bodhicitta. And so we also need to take the bodhicitta. We need to grasp it firmly and make sure that we bring it with us, that we keep it with us. So it's like the most precious jewel that the greatest captain, the Buddha, can help us find.
所以呢，在这个句子中呢，第一句话就说到，我们众生为导师，就像这个刚才说的那个商队的这个首领一样呢，我们众生的导师就是这个佛陀，他呢以他这个无漏的智慧来观察，发现这个菩提心是最珍贵、最为宝贵的。所以呢，既然佛陀是这样告诉我们了呢，我们就应该就是非常珍惜、坚持这个菩提心。
Okay. So the next stanza, this is the third of the six analogies, or the six analogies. This is about how it produces inexhaustible results. And the verse reads, all other virtues, like banana trees, are spent once they have produced a result. The tree of bodhicitta constantly bears fruit, thus thriving inexhaustibly.
第12季就是其余善行如芭蕉果实生矣，终枯槁，菩提心树恒生果，非仅不尽，反增茂。
So here, this is kind of a difficult for those of us who are originally from North America or someplace where there are no banana trees, this might be difficult to understand this example. But banana trees, they will grow a stalk that will then bear bananas, but it only bears bananas once, and then that stalk uh, dies away, and another stalk grows that produces bananas. So each banana trunk only produces one crop before another one has to grow. So it's like each time they only produce once. So other virtues, for example, if you um, make an offering to someone without the motivation of bodhicitta, it will have a result, but it will only have a result one time because each karma, each action that you do only produces one ripened result.
嗯，这里面所讲的呢，就是它这个话的意思，实际上就是说，这个芭蕉树，芭蕉树呢，它是我们在北美的话是可能不太了解这个芭蕉树，但是芭蕉树呢，它是这样子的，就是它这一枝芭蕉树，它结一次果实，然后它就枯萎了，它这整个这一大枝的这个树枝，这一个枝干，它就枯萎了。所以呢，就像我们普通的这个善行一样，我们普通人的这个善行，我们通常的行一次善，这个果报成熟，它就是一次性的，然后接下来就不能够再感果了。
So I think that actually the analogy that's maybe better for us, especially here in Canada, is tomatoes. You get one tomato seed, it grows one tomato plant. That tomato plant bears fruit for 1 month or 2 months in the summer, and then the first frost comes and it stops bearing fruit. Or it gets cold and it stops bearing fruit. And then it's never going to bear fruit again. So the tomato plant only bears fruit once. So bodhicitta is kind of the opposite of that. But the tree of bodhicitta constantly bears fruit. Once you've got bodhicitta, once it grows, it gets stronger and stronger until you achieve Buddhahood. And then once you're at Buddhahood, you're just constantly bearing the fruit of providing everything for anyone that can everything that can benefit anyone.
我们在这边的话，在北美的话，可能就是我们讲这个番茄的植物，就大家会更有感触。像这个番茄我们种番茄的话，通常呢，它就是一个月2个月它就是结果，但是有的时候它就结这一次果，它就不再结果了；有的时候结了2次，它也不会再结果了。就跟刚才的芭蕉树是一样，它们结了一次，然后这个就枯萎了。但是菩提心呢，它是很不同的。菩提心，我们这棵如果有菩提这个菩提心这棵大树的话呢，它会持续的产生果报，而且呢是越来越旺盛的，直到你证得佛果，然后利益所有的有情众生。
So bodhicitta is like a wish-fulfilling tree as opposed to being like a banana tree or a tomato plant.
所以菩提这棵大树呢，菩提心这棵大树呢，更像是一个如意的树，它会一直满你的愿。
So next we have a couple of examples that talk about how bodhicitta overcomes misdeeds. So the previous verse about how it bears inexhaustible fruit is like that we just spoke about. That is talking about merit. But bodhicitta is also good for overcoming misdeeds. And so that's what we describe first in the next example in verse 13, which reads, like those who in great danger rely on heroes, why would the careful not rely on that which liberates them in a single instant, even if they have done horrendous wrongs?
我们的偈子12呢，刚才主要就是讲，菩提心的有一个功德叫就是积累，它的利益一个利益呢就是积累功德，那么接下来第13个偈子我们讲的呢，这个菩提心的另外一个功德呢，不，另外的一个利益呢，它是净化业障，偈子是这样说的：如人随犯极重罪，然依永世得除畏，若有速令解脱者，畏罪之人何不依？
So with karma, we've got two different types of karma that we need to understand. When you do an action, some of the actions that we do are definitely going to produce a karmic ripening, and some of them are not. So the ones that are going to definitely produce a karmic ripening are those that will be, in technical terms, we say the karma that is definitely experienced. So the karma that will definitely bear a result are those that we do with a stronger intention, or maybe you do them to a person who's more significant or a being who's more significant. Maybe you do them frequently. All of these make karma, increase the power of karma and make it more likely that it's going to be definitely experienced, whether in this lifetime or in your next lifetime or in some lifetime in the future. Because of the strength of the action and the strength of the person that you do it to and the strength of your intention, it's definitely going to be experienced at some point.
嗯，这个业的话，我们这个业是分为两种的，这个业力，一种叫做定业，另一种叫做不定业。定业的意思呢，就是说，你做了这个业的话，必定要遭受到业报的。这个通常呢，它是一种比较强烈的业，就是可能是你有非常强的动机要去做，或者是说你反来覆去经常性的在做，那么你这个果报它一定是你一定会受到，必定要受到这个果报的。那么这个果报的话，也许会反映在今生出现，也或者是会在来世出现。
So we need something to protect us from that karma that's definitely going to be experienced. It's kind of like when you are going down a dangerous road or a dangerous alley and you're all alone. It's in the middle of the night, and you know that there are all sorts of people hiding on either side of the alley. You have to go down the alley, but you don't want to be mugged. You don't want to be hurt on that alley. You need someone to protect you. So you get someone who has like a black belt or someone who can keep you safe to come along with you. So this is the hero. So we need someone like that hero or something like that hero. And so when we're talking about karma, what can really protect us from that is our bodhicitta.
Sorry. You talk about walking along.
Yeah, you're going along a really small, really narrow alley. It's
Oh,
dark. It's in the middle of the night, and uh, there are dangerous people all over, and you need someone to protect you, someone with a black belt.
对，I'm sorry. Yes. 是这样子的。刚才我还忘记说了，那个有定业，定业后面还有一个不定业，不定业就是说你不一定会受到业报，这个取决于因缘的和合。现在我们讲这个定业，就是你肯定是会受到这个业报的。那么这样的话呢，我们就必须要有一个保护者。这里边呢，它就有这样的一个比喻，是怎么样呢？就是假想你现在独行在一个黑暗的狭巷里边，坏人可能藏在你任何不知道的一个地方，你独自行走，非常的害怕不安。这时候呢，你就需要一个勇士出来保护你。
So in the past, in Shantideva's time, they talk about heroes. What we need these days are bodyguards. We need big, burly bodyguards.
就是在文中这个祭天菩萨讲的是说勇士，我们实际上就是需要一个那个bodyguard，就是 sorry I don't know the Chinese bodyguard，就
Someone
是
to protect her.
就是对，就是需要一个保护你的人。
Okay, so all right, so the bodyguard here is bodhicitta. And the reason why bodhicitta protects us is it's like, you know, karma is going to ripen on us. It's going to happen to us. The things that are definitely going to happen, they will happen to us, but they can only happen to us. But that's not, and we call it definite, but it's not entirely definite. You can purify it. Basically, karma is like the effects of your bad habits. And if you do enough strong positive things, you can purify your karma. And there are different ways to purify our karma. These are the specific ways that are spoken about later on in this text, in particular in the second chapter. So we won't go into the specific ways right now, but if you have a strong enough virtue, you can basically erase all that karma from your karmic from your own continuum.
就是我们虽然说这个定业它是一定是会来到的，但是它并不代表就是绝对的一定会来。是为什么呢？就是说，这个菩提心呢，在这儿就是我们所刚才形容的这个勇士，这个保护者。他呢，我们实际上是通过就是非常强修行这个菩提心的话，我们是可以净化掉我们一些累积的这些恶业的，就是消除我们一些极重的罪业。
So that's the analogy for the karma that will definitely be experienced. And the next verse gives us the analogy for karma that is not definitely experienced.
我们这里第13季主要讲的就是说，讲了你这个定业一定会发生的这个，一定会接受受报的这个业力，这个菩提心是怎么样能够解脱你这个业力的，然后接下来我们第14个句子呢，它主要就讲了是说菩提心它怎么样帮助你能够解脱那些不定业。
Okay, so here in verse 14, actually, it's only the first two lines of this verse that talk about the overcoming the karma that is not definitely experienced. And these read, like the inferno at an age's end, it burns up great misdeeds in a single instant.
就是这里第14季前2句主要讲的就是说菩提心怎么样摧毁你各种不定的业，不定业，这前2句讲菩提心如芥末火刹那，能毁诸重罪。
So when we talk about karma that is not definitely experienced, what this means is that there's some actions that you do where there are bad things, there are things you should not have done. You know that you shouldn't have done them, but you didn't have as strong a motivation. The action was maybe not so bad, or the being was not as significant a being. For example, maybe you killed a mosquito. Maybe you did something, something like that. It's bad. It does have karmic ripening, but it's not strong enough to necessarily ripen in any particular lifetime. If the right situation happens, then it will ripen. But otherwise, it's just kind of hanging out in your continuum. It's still there, but it'll only ripen when the right causes and conditions come together.
我们这边所讲的这个不定业呢，就是指有一些行为，你的行为举止的话呢，如果你不是一些不好的行为举止的话，如果你不是带有很强烈的动机心，如果这个也是无意识的，并不是就是非常巨大的一种业的话呢，譬如你不小心打死了个蚊子，类似这样的这种行为的话呢，虽然也不是一个很好的行为，但是呢，这个业力它还不足以强到说是它一定就会产生这个业报。这个业当它不成熟，只有当它也许在某种情况下因缘它聚合了，也许这个业会显现，但是很多时候它就是在那边一直也成熟不了。
So, for example, if you have a really strong feeling of hatred and you kill your parents, well, even actually, if you kill your parents intentionally, if even without a strong feeling, because they're your parents, if you kill your parents, that is definitely going to be experienced in your next lifetime. If you kill a mosquito, and it's just like, oh, I don't want to be bit, and you kind of go like that and kill the mosquito, a little bit of a tap on your wrist, and kill the mosquito, it's still bad, but it's not strong enough necessarily to perhaps I can't really say, I don't really know, but it may not be strong enough to definitely be experienced. So that's the type of karma that we're speaking about here.
就是说，如果你心怀极大的恶意，譬如你杀害了父母，那么像这样的大恶的行为的话呢，那你是一定会遭受到业报的，这是不容置疑的。但是如果说你像刚才讲的，如果杀了一个蚊子，这个行为也并不是好的行为，但是它还不足够强大到说就是我们绝对的说你一定会遭受到这个业报。
So here the it reads in the first two lines of verse 14, like the inferno at an age's end, it burns up great misdeeds in a single instant.
所以就像这个前两句说的话，这个菩提心呢，就如同这个劫末的猛火一样，它能在刹那之间烧毁你所有的这些罪业。
So here the analogy is that at the end of an eon, the universe that we're in is entirely destroyed. Sometimes, usually, the most frequently it's destroyed by fire, sometimes it's destroyed by water, and sometimes by great wind. But basically, after the Earth has been around for some number of millions or billions of years, the world's been around for some millions or billions of years, it's burnt up by fire. And that fire then destroys everything so that there's not even a single atom left. All of the beings in the earth, in the universe are reborn, some in maybe the form realms, some in other universes, depending upon their karma. So there are no beings left, and then all the physical stuff is completely burnt up as well. So the fire just destroys everything.
这里所说的这个节末火呢，就是通常指我们现在所在的呃当到坏劫的时候，我们所在的这个世界到坏劫的时候呢，通常就会被大火焚尽。当这个劫到的时候，它就会大火焚尽。就是有的时候也可能是被水或者是大风整个摧毁掉。这可能是上亿年。到那个时候的时候，当这个到坏劫的时候，这个整个这个世界被毁掉的时候呢，什么都不会留下。我们所有的这个众生呢，要么会投生到其他的这个道，或者是投生到其他的世界去。
So, like that fire, the bodhicitta will then burn up all of the indefinite karma we have, the karma that will not definitely be experienced. And so that's another of that's the fifth of the benefits or the fifth of the analogies.
所以这个菩提心呢，就像我们刚才说的，在一个这个坏劫时的这场大火，是焚毁一切的这场大火，它呢就有这样如此大的力量，它可以把你所有这些不定业全部都摧毁掉。
And so then the last two lines are about the what is traditionally called the sixth analogy. And they read, the wise protector Maitreya explained its countless benefits to Sudana.
接下来后面两句话呢，通常就是大家指的这传统上所指的这个第六个比喻类比。他说到智者弥勒论善财，决心利益无限量。
So this is a reference to a list of the benefits of bodhicitta that's found in a sutra called in Sanskrit, the Gandhavyuha Sutra, or in English, it's translated as the stem array. You can read the sutra on the 84,000 website in English, and it's also, I'm sure, easy to find in Chinese. There is a Chinese translation as well. It's a beautiful sutra, and it contains a list of over 200 analogies that Maitreya taught to the student Sudana.
接下来的这两句话呢，主要就是它引自这个《华严经》。《华严经》中，当这个弥勒菩萨他对善财童子施喻的时候，他讲这个菩提心的利益有无限量的时候，他做了200个比喻。大家可以感兴趣的话，可以到读一下《华严经》。
So we don't have time, or it's not really quite a situation to go through all 200 of these analogies. If we did, we'd have to go through several weeks of classes to go through 200 analogies. So rather than doing that, I just wanted to speak about one of them early on in the list. The first is of a seed. The second is of a field. Then there is earth, water, air, and fire. And then the next one is the moon. So we'll speak about the moon.
就是这个比喻呢，它有无数的，就是比喻这个菩提心有利益的有多好，这有200多个比喻，我们不可能在这边把200个比喻都讲一下，那要讲上很久。就是基本上它这个比喻呢，有什么大地呀，海呀，然后它有一系列的这个比喻，就是那么我现在想讲其中的一个比喻，就是月亮的比喻。
So the moon is the moon is like when you have a full moon. The full moon gives light. You can see we're coming up to winter in the northern hemisphere. So, when you have like a full moon in the woods on a snowy evening, you can just see everything. It's almost like being in the daytime. Or maybe that's actually the wrong analogy. It's just one of my favorite experiences. But when you are in India and you have the full moon, it gives you light and you can see everything, but it's also cool. It's not like the sun, which is hot. You can't stay in the sunlight, but you can be outside and enjoy yourself by the light of the full moon and see everything that you need to see.
现在大家想一下这个满月啊，就是在北美的话，我们可以想象在这个下雪天的晚上有这样一个明亮的满月，或者是在印度的话呢，就是我们也可以想象有这样的一轮满月，的晚上是非常凉爽的，大家可以来享受这一轮满月，不像是太阳当头的时候感觉好热啊。
So the moon is cooling, and it also shines its light equally on everyone. The moon is round. That's that round aspect to the moon. It's like we're shining the light on everyone. It's not like, shining its light in some directions and not in others. It shines on everyone. It doesn't say this is a good person, this is a bad person. It says this is a being. This is someone who can do light. And it doesn't even think about it. It just shines light. And so in the same way, bodhicitta is like that. You have the same bodhicitta. It shines light on everything, on everyone, all sentient beings. It gives them light. It helps them. And so in this way, bodhicitta is like the moon.
现在想象这样的一轮满月，明亮的满月，我们每个人都可以来享受这个满月。这个月亮的光芒呢，就是这样美好的照射出来，照亮了每一个人。月亮它是圆的，它是非常它是明亮的它的光芒照亮着每一个人，不分你我，不论你是谁，你是哪一道的众生，它就是这样平等的照亮着你我。所以这个菩提心呢，也是就像这轮满月一样，它就是平等的照亮着我们每一个人，给我们带来同样的利益。
So the reason why I wanted to speak about that one in particular is that often when we do visualizations, we imagine a Buddha or a Bodhisattva sitting on a moon, on a full moon. Now, some practices, some of the instructions talk about it differently, but if you don't know the specific instructions of a practice, you can think about, when you think about like Chenrezig sitting on a moon disk on top of a lotus or Vajrasattva, you can remember that it is bodhicitta. You can think of that. Now, specific practices will have different instructions, but this is a general one that you can remember when you're visualizing if you're doing a deity practice.
就是当我们在修行这个本尊的这个观想的时候，或做其他的这个禅修的时候，观想的时候呢，我们通常会想到有佛菩萨坐在这个月轮之上，譬如做这个四臂观音的这个观想的时候，四臂观音坐在这个月轮之上，那么我们就可以想到这个，Kambu, do you mean bodhicitta is the moon seat?
Yes. It's like the moon and when you visualize the moon seat, that's a symbol of bodhicitta.
我们那么观想这个四臂观音坐在这个月轮之上的时候呢，我们就把这个月亮想成这个菩提心，观想
Okay.
菩提心。
So I thought I might get a couple of verses later, but I don't think we will tonight. I think we've gone through enough. So that is enough for tonight.
我本来还想讲更多一点，但是看来今天只能到这儿了。我们时间差不多了。
So, in particular, for all of you who are in Vancouver, I have to start traveling again. So next week I will be speaking to you from Vermont. The week after I'll be speaking to you from Maine. And the week after that, I will be speaking to you from Nepal. But I'd like to take this opportunity to first of all thank all of you in Vancouver for treating me so well every time I'm here, and especially over the last month and a half or so since I've come. I appreciate all of your kindness very greatly. And what is most important is I really greatly appreciate the interest you are taking in the Dharma, and I'm delighted to see all of you. So I'm very glad, and I will be glad to teach online, and I look forward to coming back. I'm not quite sure exactly when yet, but I will come back and we'll continue these classes till then, and even after then.
嗯，就是我先有几句话想跟温哥华的法友们说一下，就是我很快要离开温哥华了，下周的时候呢，我会在 Vermont 跟大家讲法，在下一周的时候我会在 Maine 跟大家讲法，接下来的一周呢，我会在这个在这个尼泊尔跟大家讲法。在我走之前，我想跟大家说呢，我非常非常感谢你们对我这么好的照顾。我每一次来到在温哥华的时候，你们都对我照顾的非常的好，非常感激你们这些爱心和耐心，同时呢，我也特别的感谢你们呢，对佛法这么有兴趣。我也很高兴呢，能够教你们一点什么。嗯，呃，所以接下来呢，我很高兴我们继续还是在做这个线上教学。我是会回来的，但是具体什么时间现在还不知道。直到我再次回到温哥华之前呢，我们都坚持这个线上的教学。
So let's see. One thing I should have mentioned when I was speaking about the discussion groups is that when you're in the discussion groups, you can come up with questions and then send them to me, and I'd be happy to answer questions. Sometimes in the Zoom, if we have so many people, it's a little bit awkward to do questions. We might have some time for live questions in other sessions. But when you have your discussion groups, please think of any questions and forward them along in the group chat and or forward them along, and I will try to answer questions in the future classes.
How do you mean people forward question direct to you?
Um,
Or
uh, we'll
sure.
let you know the exact mechanism. I have to speak with our bosses, Grace and Kimmy, and then we can figure it out.
OK，so，接下来就是说一下我们这个学习小组。学习小组的话呢，大家可以坐在一起讨论一下问题。然后我也很高兴，如果你们有什么问题，我会非常高兴的回答你们的问题。当然，未来的这些授课的时候，如果现场有问题的话，咱们也可以到时候现场再解决。但是呢。这个课后学习小组的话，大家如果有问题的话呢，我们将来可以把问题组织起来，看看情况是由这个小组的组长还是怎么样，我们具体到时候再安排一下，把这个问题转给我，然后我来进行回答。
So now it is time for us to dedicate the merit. So please think to yourselves that by the virtue of teaching and listening to the Dharma, as representative of all the virtue that we or any other sentient being has ever done, that we may be able to achieve the state of Buddhahood ourselves, and that we may be able to bring all sentient beings swiftly to this state. Until such time as we do, may all sentient beings have great happiness, and may they be free of all the various calamities of natural disasters or plague or famine or war, and progress down the path to swiftly achieve Buddhahood.
接下来进入回向，所以 做回向的时候，希望大家就想一想我们所有的这个累积的福德呢，都回向给这个有情的众生愿所有的有情众生，直到这个我们和有情众生证得佛果之前，希望所有的有情众生能够离苦得乐，尤其是现在正在经历着各式各样苦难的这些有情众生。
So, let me share this. 我所能的业当觉是把你托那涅的扎南旁切呢。Kekana chibala trubai sipetsoledro wadro warsho. Thank you very much, everyone. 谢谢大家，谢谢。
Thank you, Campbell.
Thank you so much. 谢谢 Campbell.
Okay.
Thank you, Campbell.
Thank you, Campbell.